Hi, Joel. Good evening to you.
Good
My name
morning to
is.
you.
Thank you. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, thank you very much for being so proactive to actually setting the time for this interview. And I'm very, very honored to have you on my show. Simply because I think you've read a bit of my profile. I'm also one that I think I value people a lot, and my podcast talks a lot about self worth.
Excellent. I'm
And
excited to be here.
yeah, thank you so much. Me too. Uh, Culture is something I really close and dear to my heart simply because
Hmm.
I'm in Malaysia. So we're very multi-diverse here in this country. And
Yes.
what a great, how do I say this? You don't see a lot of people, especially maybe from the US, that have this kind of experience. There's a handful, yeah, I would say, but hearing from one. So
Hmm.
this will be a great conversation.
All right. Excellent. Yes.
Yes. So my ritual is that I would like to read a bit of introduction about our guests before we start.
Okay.
That's all right with you. Okay.
Yes, please do.
So, hey everyone, we have Joel David Bond here with us, a born explorer. He has spent over 2 decades living and working around the world, from farm work in Italian vineyards to jet setting as a London-based flight attendant. His recent work in Iraqi Kurdistan built bridges between some of the region's most elite students and the locally marginalized refugee community through service learning. He holds a master's in education from the University of Nottingham, UK. His recent book, As Large as Your Spirit, a reverse refugee memoir, was a finalist in the Best Indie Book Awards 2023.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was very pleased with that.
Yes. So before we dive straight into business, so can you share with us what was it like growing up as Joel David Bond?
Oh, yes. Well, with a name like Bond, you have to capitalize on the James Bond,
Exactly,
connection there.
exactly. Zero zero
Yes.
seven.
Yes. So I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, you must be tired of the James Bond jokes." I love it. I think it's great. I mean, it has such like personality and charisma, and I mean, who doesn't like, James Bond is just a character that everybody's like, "Oh yeah."
The moment you
So,
hear of Bond, it's like automatically the suit, the cars,
I know,
the
right? The
yeah,
gadgets, the girls,
yeah,
the
the
whole thing,
stealth
right?
mode and everything.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved it. So I'd tell people, the name's Bond, Joel Bond,
Oh,
007 and a half.
nice! I thought you should. We should did. Okay,
Yeah.
James Bond.
No, I live it up. I will own it. I own that one completely.
Ah, I love that for you.
Yeah. The other one that you should know that I own. So I was born and raised in Kansas in the
Right.
US.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the famous thing that everybody says about Kansas is The Wizard of Oz, the famous
Oh
film from the
yeah.
1950s, Dorothy,
Uh,
Toto over the rainbow. Yeah.
right, right.
So I always say, the name is Bond, Joel Bond, from Kansas, and yes, I used to dog sit for Toto.
I love that. Well, I can tell that you're when I saw your website, so I went and checked your website. I was like, wow, this is. I think he's really living his life, and yeah, I mean, you can tell because everything is energy, right? It's like you're just this. I don't know. You're just. I think it is your forte. People. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been told that I exude good energy, so I'll take that
I don't
one.
want
I'm
to
going to
blow
run
my
with it.
own, yeah, my own horn, but me too. I love talking. That's why I'm having this podcast. But yes, yes. Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off. You were saying growing up.
Oh yeah, just growing up in Kansas, I mean, I'd always sort of just joke about the Kansas connection and Wizard of Oz, and I'd use my James Bond name as well. So I feel like both of those have really served me well in my life. Like they've really done well to make me a person that people remember, I guess.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we let's talk about your inspiration behind the title "As Large as Your Spirit" and how it
Hmm.
reflects the themes explored in your memoir.
So,
Ooh.
As Large as Your Spirit was a title that came out of the title of one of the chapters of the book itself, actually. And it wasn't the original title of the book. I had that recommended to me by one of my editors. They said, "Oh, you should really call it As Large as Your Spirit," because it sounds to me like your story is less about it's less about these themes of refugees and feeling this sort of search for home, which it is one of those, those are the big themes, but it's more about finding that space as large as your spirit, like Stelio says in chapter, I think 14 or 15. It says it really is like a story about finding a space for you to fill with your largeness of character and your spirit so that you feel free to thrive, not just survive. And so that was really kind of where the title came from. It was recommended by one of my editors, and I loved it. I thought, oh man, that is really what this is about. It is about finding that space within your own soul where you recognize kind of your own worth, and the space that you can fill and how you can create this positive impact in the world. And all of us need that space as large as our spirit in order to thrive.
Yeah. We're getting right into it. Like, okay, my next question to you is that you mentioned, or the book itself mentioned, that you chose to live in Iraq by choice. How did your experiences in Iraq influence your perspective and shape the narratives of your memoir?
Yes. Living in Iraq for 7 years gave me a perspective. Yes, 7 years. Yeah. It really gave me a perspective on the developing world and post-conflict societies. Iraq is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it is some of the friendliest people. Yeah. I absolutely have just fallen in love with it. I think, but what it really taught me was what it's like to live in a place where they're rebuilding post-conflict, been in conflict for decades now, and are now sort of in this boom zone where they're starting to grow and rebuild after a lot of that conflict. And there's also, it's still in many ways a developing part of the world. And so Iraq itself has generated a lot of immigrants, people who would, emigrate out of the country to go someplace else. And so whether that was for, financial economic migrancy, or whether that was for political reasons or to become a refugee someplace else in the world, Iraq is one of those countries that's just generated a lot of refugees. And what I found in my book, As Large as Your Spirit, when I was caught on this Greek island, which is the setting of where I was for the pandemic, ended up meeting all of these refugees from the Middle East. So here I am, a man from the West, caught in Greece, trying to get back to his home in the Middle East. And I meet all of these refugees from the Middle East caught in Greece trying to get to the West. And so our paths
like a beautiful
intersected. I ended up volunteering to teach English for a few months in the refugee camp. And our lives sort of changed forever after that situation. And I think what it really helped me, those years of living in Iraq, really helped me understand some of the root causes for why people leave. What is it that motivates? What's the sort of thing that causes people, forces them to flee their home countries and to seek immigration, to seek asylum someplace else in the world? And what can we do not only to help refugees who have already left, but also stem that flow of migration so that we can actually rebuild societies in their home countries and not just sort of put a Band-Aid on situations. So that was really, I mean, we're going deep real quick here, but
Oh yeah. Well, I've been told a couple of times that we start from the introduction and
dive right in.
and then we go,
Just jumped off the cliff.
Yes. So because I have some friends who have families, or they've been in, or maybe Iran, which is a neighboring country, but
Yes.
Iraq has been they said it surprisingly, the people are the total opposite. It's like the hospitality is like,
It is out of this world.
yeah. And I don't know, but okay, growing up, the conflict was happening. And oftentimes it was painted that it's the opposite. And when I got to my age now, 30 plus, and it's I heard it from them, it's actually they don't really care who you are, for example. They'll just ask you, please come by my house and have some meals. Because they just want to show that, I guess they also somehow know that they're painted in a bad way. But they want to show that, okay, this is who we truly are.
Yeah.
In
I think
essence, yeah.
it's built into the culture in a lot of ways. And like you said, they recognize they've had such bad press for decades.
Yeah.
And there's an element where hospitality in the Middle East in general is, it's an act of service and it's an act of love, really. And if you, as a guest, deny someone the opportunity to serve you, to show you hospitality, then that's actually very offensive. It can be very rude.
Very rude, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, to deny someone the opportunity to show you love is like it's really a dick move. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I know we threw some cuts here in my show, so it's fine.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think what I found in 7 years of living there as well is just, there was an actual study that was done that says that Iraqis are rated as some of the most hospitable people in the world.
Yeah.
And I believe it.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I believe it from people, because why would somebody say that if it isn't true, if the whole narrative of it was the opposite, and now you're telling me this? Like, there must be some truth in there. Wow. Yeah, so when did you start living in Iraq, and when did you actually leave Iraq?
So you're going to touch on a sore point here. I moved there.
I am so sorry.
No, it's a good nerve to talk about, to be honest.
Okay.
I moved there in 2016, in the end of 2016, and I just was evacuated by the U.S. State Department in October. So I would have stayed for another 7 years if I could have. But for whatever reasons, and this is still, I will never know the real reason, let's just say.
Right.
But in early October, the Israel-Gaza conflict sparked a kind of domino effect in the Middle East, and there was rising tensions politically in the region. And for whatever reason, and however the reason, I ended up on a list of U.S. citizens to target, and I was told to leave. So I Thursday night was out partying with friends. We went out, to the next city over, and we were, out drinking and eating and everything. Came back late on Friday evening to 2 messages and 2 missed emails, and got in contact with the consulate that night. And on Saturday night, I was on an airplane and I came back to the States.
Well, I'm so sorry for that, because you were having your
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really shocking transition. And I hate to share that story in many ways. One, because I don't know the real reasons why. Like, it's basically government classified information as to how I got on that list and what the reasoning is. Because I'm civilian over there. Like, I'm not in military. I'm not, I don't have political voice or anything. So it was really kind of this sort of shocking news for that to come my direction. And I hate to share that story as well, because it only sort of bolsters that narrative of Iraq as a dangerous place and all these terrible news stories.
It solidifies,
I know. And I hate to share that because I have to sort of then follow it up by saying, I am one of only 2 people that I know that were asked to leave the country in that way. And there are hundreds of U.S. citizens that are still there and are just fine. And it's entirely, and it's hard to convince you to say it's a safe country when you hear stories like this. But but I'm convinced.
I believe you, really.
Yeah.
But
and I think the best thing to really compare it to is you can say, but all the news stories, all this. Well, yeah, the news is true. What happens in the news is generally real, but the news represents 1% of reality. 99% of the time, people get up and they go to school and they take their kids, they go to work and they go buy milk at the supermarket and walk the dog and do all the normal things that you and I do every day, everywhere in the world, even in conflict zones. And I think it's really just important to recognize that the news, while it may be real, only represents a small portion of reality. And that the best way to gauge what's going on in a country is to just be in touch with the people that live there or be there. Yeah.
No.
And that's not to minimize things that are happening. I mean, Israel, Gaza, that is a serious conflict, and there's terrible things that are happening and terrible loss of life. And yet, you also have to remember that the reels that you see on TikTok and on Instagram are the dramatic elements, and
Yeah.
that even in Israel and in Gaza, there are people who are still just going to work and going to school. And yes, there are interruptions, and yes, it's terrible, and yes, there's a lot that's happening, and that's horrible. Ukraine, same situation,
Russia, yeah, same.
Myanmar, Russia, all of these, these are similar situations all over the world, and people still get up and go to work and do their normal everyday life. And that's not to minimize that. Those are serious, dramatic situations that need to be addressed, and we need to do what we can do.
Right? Lives were lost, yes.
But it's so easy to just focus in on what the news headlines tell you and paint the whole culture and the whole country with just that one tarnished
That
headline.
same one color. Yeah. I totally agree. Like I'm the type of person that once I am being shown, or once an attention is shifted to something very, very big, I would be the first to say, is that really what's happening? Or are they something else is happening because they want the attention to be there? So I like uncovering. I think I'm one of the handful of people who like to challenge the norm, I would say.
Yeah.
And you too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always just good to seek out alternative perspectives. The original perspective might be right, might be the one that you need to take.
Correct.
But it's always good to look for the alternative viewpoints as well.
That's right. And not be so adamant that your lens is the only correct lens. You see? Yeah.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just about political, it's anything at work, even simple relationship, simple friendship. You can be the best of friends, and then you hear from somebody, and 15 years of friendship gone just like that, right? Yeah, but it's human, but at the same time, we were just discussing this with another guest yesterday. Knowledge is indeed power, and I mean, two things: ignorance is bliss, but if you flip it, knowledge is power. Yeah.
No, and I love that phrase, knowledge is power, but I heard someone recently take that phrase and they say, knowledge used to be power, but now all the knowledge in the world is carried around in our pockets in these little devices here.
Right.
And the real power now isn't just knowledge, but
Execution.
Wisdom. How do you apply that knowledge in ways that are meaningful and useful?
Impactful. Yeah. I love that. We take it one step further. Fine, you have all the knowledge, because you are right. I mean, right now, this is knowledge to me too. I'm listening to you. So how am I taking this and changing my life or the life of people around me? I don't know how. For example, maybe from a sense of culture, belonging, or even say somebody's talking about what's happening in those regions that are affected. Oh, have you actually thought about this? I was speaking to another person, and it's actually this. Oh, really? Well, then again, it's whether they're open to hear about it, to accept, and just open. You don't even need to accept. Just be open, and I mean, we do our best, but we don't you don't impose.
Yeah. I think you're really sort of touching on a couple of key issues. Is that we live in a world now where there's so much talk, not enough listening. There's not enough response or action. And so we can sit there and we can consume so much. We consume all these books, all this media, all the podcasts, all the music, all the series, whatever it is. But does it ever really spill over into a change of lifestyle or action, even tiny steps of change? And it's almost like we need to dial back from so much consumption and take some moment to process and apply.
Yes. And with all this tsunami of information, and then it's so important, I think, for me at least, to pick and choose what is good and what is good for me, and is it helping me to move me closer to whatever it is that I want to achieve. I think Yeah.
Heard again. I'm gonna just spout other people's wisdom here, but
Yes, yes, please do.
but again, many years ago, I heard someone talk about. This is sort of in the context of religion and faith, but they were talking about, what makes things holy, what makes things sacred, and it's being able to make the distinction between this and not that, between one and not two, between red and not blue, in this outfit, not that outfit, that job application and not this job application. And that being able to sort of narrow things down and make it a choice, to make an active decision and act on it, is part of what makes your life sacred, part of what makes your life holy and meaningful. And if you
That's right.
simply absorb everything and do all the things, then you end up really doing nothing at all.
Not, yeah.
And that true growth really is that opportunity, the ability to say
Ability.
no,
Yeah.
to some of the things that come along that perhaps you even
Oh,
want.
yeah, that's you're preaching to the choir too. I mean,
With our powers combined, right?
yes, because you online, Instagram, news. This is so. I guess if I were to think back, there are people who they know that they are out. Drowning is such a harsh word, but it, in analogy, we are actually drowning, and I guess until you pick and choose and have the ability to point out or just okay, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna use
Yeah.
this for me and make it impactful.
Mhm.
Then I think that's true wisdom and you
Yeah.
having the boundary. Yeah.
Yeah. Boundaries are such, I mean, that's almost a buzzword now, but it's so true, I feel. To be able to have healthy boundaries, to know what you need and to not be ashamed or afraid to ask for it. I feel like that's the definition of the
Ooh.
healthiest person there is. Because nobody has all their
Yes.
shit together, right? Nobody has
Yeah,
everything,
yeah, exactly.
But I think
Exactly.
the healthiest ones are those who know what they need, they can identify it, and they're not afraid or ashamed to ask for it, to ask for the
Mm-hmm.
help, to ask for the things that they need. And hopefully you are surrounded by people and community that can help you achieve those things that you need. But, you know, that's part of wisdom. That's part of life. That's part of just being a healthy human individual is just, yeah, owning it. Owning your, it's the phrase, own your shit, right?
Yeah. I turn that owning our power because
Yeah.
to be honest, everybody has we can make choices at every moment of our lives. Like right now, we can choose not to have this conversation, right?
Yeah,
We
just
could just
close
say,
the
"Oh, yeah, close this." Like, I mean, Joel, I am so sorry. I don't feel like, yeah. And then no, we make a choice, and we're here. So kudos to us, Joel.
Yeah. Here we are, healthy human beings functioning in the
Yes.
world.
Yeah. All right, Joel. As large as your spirit touches the challenges of being away from loved ones and the familiar,
Yeah.
how did you navigate the emotional aspects of this isolation, and how did that translate to the overall theme of the book?
No, when this is set in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
when the world went into lockdown, and I think it's almost easy for us at this point in time to forget how traumatic that initial experience was, how lonesome and worrying it was to have everything shut down and to not know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
So, my particular situation is, I was obviously living in Iraq, and I had gone to this remote Greek island for a 1-week vacation. I was going to go, just for a week with a carry-on bag. And the day I arrived, the World Health Organization used the phrase global pandemic, everything shut down,
Pandemic.
and I was isolated for 5 months with just my
Wow.
carry-on. And of course, at the time, you didn't know. I didn't know it was going to be 5 months. It was 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. Oh, let's do another 2 weeks, and I just sort of
Yeah.
stretched on until finally borders were lifted and I was able to go home. And so, what I found in that situation was intense loneliness because I had gone by myself and I knew nobody on this island. I didn't speak Greek. I, knew absolutely nobody. And yet I had a few things that really helped me navigate that. One was the miracle of the internet. I mean, I could do this kind of thing with friends and family,
Mm.
if it was needed, if it was necessary to connect, have phone calls, FaceTimes, whatever. But you also can't spend your entire life,
Facing
staring at your screen.
yeah, the four squared screen.
Yeah,
The square
and as
screen, yeah.
much as we spend too much time staring at these screens, we all recognize that we should do less of it and want to go out and experience the real world. And so the other thing that I found myself doing, two things. One was actively forming a community of people around me in Greece. Whether that was the hotel owner where I was quarantined, whether it was the activity director who became a close friend and took me on hikes every week or so. It was just walking into town and buying my groceries at the supermarket and learning how to say a few simple things in Greek, and just being a familiar face to the townspeople where I was stuck. And then the third and final thing that really helped me was meditation. And I know that sounds, very kind of woo, and people fall on all sorts of spectrum on, how much they agree with, meditation as a practice or not. But I found just taking the intentional time every day to sit in silence and be with myself. Whether that was focusing on breathing, whether that was listening to a mantra, do whatever you want, whatever practice works for you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we have so much noise in our heads. And you gotta process that. If you don't process it, it's gonna find negative outlets someplace. And so just sit for a few minutes every day with yourself. And if you can do that consistently and not be terrified of the first few times that you do it,
yeah, by your own
right?
thoughts, it's scary.
You become, in many ways, your own best friend.
Oh,
You
yes.
become the kind of person that you want to hang out with because you recognize over time, the things that you're doing, the thoughts that you have turn into the actions that you have, turns into the beliefs and the systems of living that you have. And by stopping to examine just those simple thoughts every day, helps you over time become much more aware of your own personhood and how you want to be in the world.
I don't need to add anything to that because that is my value too. Solitude is number one for me. I used to be scared. I can't. I refuse to. I'd rather scroll. But after I forced myself, I just had to sit and do introspection. Oh, almost like you're doing the shadow work.
Yes.
Once you get past it, you'll be like, I am freaking awesome to be able to go to oh my god, I am gonna conquer the world. And this word was thrown to me a few times. Self-love, sitting in silence, be with yourself. Oh, okay, I can do that. I can stay in my apartment, just sit by myself. And then okay, you have a TV, you have the internet, laptop, and whatnot. But then it's different sitting in silence and just let the thoughts there, like, brew. And I think the most important thing is to not identify yourself with it. Yeah. That's the key.
Yeah. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are part of you. And those thoughts can become action to become part of you. And yet, being able to just sit and be with yourself. And again, I don't think it has to necessarily be, this entirely, Zen meditation, breathing kind of concept. It could be as simple as making sure that you journal every day. It could be listing a few things you're grateful for every day.
Yeah.
I think whatever your practice looks like, it just needs to be something where what you are doing is generated from inside yourself and comes out rather than from output being put in.
Yes. Basically, being one with your intuition and working together with it.
Yeah.
to create this reality that you want.
Because I
Mm,
think it's so easy
yeah.
to scroll through YouTube. It's so easy to just sit on the couch and veg
TikTok,
out and TikTok and do
2
whatever.
hours gone just like that.
And the work of being with yourself is work. It's not easy. And yet it doesn't have to be this whole intensive, here's the 8 hour work shift. I've got to clock in and clock out. It can be 5 minutes. It can be
Hmm.
30 seconds to just
Hmm.
check in. But I
Yeah.
think it's doing the actual mental, emotional, physical work of being with yourself. That's what helps you develop as a human being.
And
Nothing else is going to do it for you.
nobody, not your mom, not your dad, your partner, they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to do it. And you can truly know and recognize when somebody has done the work. To be honest, we're all doing work. We're all healing because
Hmm.
we're still alive, right? But you
Yeah.
can tell when a person has done their work, the way it exudes this a different level of understanding, but at the same time, some sort of a charisma or energy, like you mentioned. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it
I think
shows. Yeah.
there's an evidence that can be brought forth sometimes when you have those people who have who have aligned themselves in such a way that their actions and their beliefs all kind of they live from a point of integrity, I guess is what I want to say, because they have done that work. Integrity means being at one. It's like a whole. It's a and if you have that integrity with you, if you're living as a whole person.
Mm, mm, mm.
I feel like we need to do like a couple
Reach.
finger snaps
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah,
We just been to church and back. I
yeah.
mean, like,
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's so amazing, like to be able to talk like this to people like anywhere in the world. Like I would say the circle of my community. Sometimes they think, but how do I say that? I also think that I have let's say I also have problems. Anything about like my bills and whatnot, but to switch that mindset that life is truly beautiful and your problem is a part of your life, but there's so much more to life.
yeah,
Mm.
and
Again,
a problem, and a blessing, both. These two shall pass. Whether it's a good
yes,
thing or a bad thing, it's gonna pass. So
yes,
enjoy it while you got it, if it's great, and ignore it if it's bad, and let it
yes.
pass. I
Oh,
mean,
yes. Oh, you're doing great work, Joel. You are, yes. Please continue to stay that way.
tend to keep
Wow.
growing. That's the
Yeah,
goal. I
yeah.
tend to keep
Oh, yeah,
growing.
sorry. No, you know what I meant. This one and grow more. Like, oh my gosh.
We're on the path.
Woo. Okay, so we touched a little bit about universal truths learned about loving your neighbor.
Mhm.
So, can you elaborate on some of these encounters and the insights they provided? I know we touched about this, but yeah. Mm.
Yeah, learning to love your neighbor as yourself. Ooh, man. I think some of the things that I learned. So I'll give a sort of an example from the book, I guess. I ended up volunteering to work with refugees on the island while I was there, and before I really kind of got engaged with that community, like everybody else, I sort of had this stigma about refugees. Oh, they're maybe second-class citizens, or they're not as well educated, or they don't really belong here somehow in whatever country they happen to be in. And whether or not you believe that personally or not, that's just sort of the line you're fed. It's kind of in the media. It's the sort of thing that's sort of in a
Preconceived
wash in the
notion.
culture. Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
sort of stereotype. And so once I started working actually with refugees in the camp there, I really learned and recognized just how incredible some of these individuals were. They'd been, doctors and lawyers and politicians and teachers and educators and, people of good standing in their home countries.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, were forced to leave. They, couldn't stay due to politics or religious belief or identity orientation or whatever it was, multiple reasons why people flee their home countries. And really, just because they were unfamiliar with another culture and or language, meant that they ended up being stuck in the system and viewed as less than.
Yeah.
Uh, and I remember one day being in class, and after class, the students had all left, and one of the students came up to me, and he was asking for help in filling out a form that he needed to complete some ID papers for the asylum seeking process. And, this guy, he's a pretty, well engaged student in class who seemed fairly intelligent and, but was struggling a little bit with English. And so he asked me to verify, some of these things on this form, and I helped him with it. And I realized that the form was one to legally change his age to register as an adult, because he didn't know his birthday, had lost his identity documents, came from a part of the world where those weren't really sort of an important thing, and had been classed as a minor in the refugee camp. I thought he was 30 something. Turns out he was about 16. And
Wow.
due to the hardships and trials of his life, had just aged him. And he was trying to register then as in the age of majority at 18, so that he could move through the system quicker and, gain his independence as an asylum seeker in Europe someplace.
Right.
That entire scenario just really highlighted a number of things. One, just how little we know about people's lives. Here I am thinking this guy was, closer to my age than not. And also to what great lengths we will go to as individuals in order to secure a sense of peace and happiness and security for ourselves. I don't know how old he really was. I don't think he knew how old he really was. But if he could register as being 18 or above, great. Do it, because it'll help you in the long run. And I remember just seeing all these stories of all these refugees in the camp, many of which are sort of highlighted and combined in the book, but recognizing in their stories much of my own situation and scenario. Yes, things were very drastically different. I was not a refugee. I came from passport privilege, really, and was there on vacation by choice. That got stuck.
By choice, yeah.
And yet I was still in a position where I couldn't return home. I was worrying about my resources on a daily basis. How long would I be able to sustain this? I felt incredibly lonely because I was isolated from my community, my friends, and my family. And I began to realize over time just how much these refugees must have experienced how I was experiencing similar emotions.
Yeah.
And while the circumstances around our individual stories might be very different, the universal truth of what we were looking for and how we wanted to connect and relate to the world was very much the same.
The same.
And I walked away from that experience still in contact with many of my former students as friends on social media, messaging, sending happy birthday messages. For the book, I actually called one of them and spoke for 3 hours at length and interviewed and said, can you tell me, how do you remember the story? How do you remember the situation? And just, finding myself
Feel that.
connected on such a deep human emotional level with these people in ways that I never thought was possible beforehand, because they were them and I was me, and we weren't in the same culture or background or religion or faith or politics or whatever. All of a sudden to realize, no, I am you and you are me, because we all need to connect. We all want to love. We all need to live.
Moment of silence.
Right?
We are all one. We're all connected. We come from the same source. So why? Why complicate things?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an image. All right.
Okay.
I don't share this with a lot of people, but during my time in the pandemic, stuck in Greece, I'm doing this meditation practice, and it was a guided meditation. It was a listening I would do, and I would sit, in silence, and I'd be with my thoughts or whatever. And over time, I kept revisiting this mental picture that I had in my head. It was this image. This is going to sound weird to let me describe it, but it was the image of the universe as like a piece of stretchy fabric, like spandex, like a black piece of fabric, and that each individual human being was like a marble of light that was like dropped onto this fabric that kind of created like an indentation, right? That like you
Yes.
were this person in this space of fabric for time. And when
Tapestry.
your
Yeah.
life is gone, that light moves. There's still the fabric of the universe there.
Yes.
Um, and it's
Oh
hard to
wow.
sort of explain that, but it's this image of like
No.
how we are all one. We are
Yes.
all interconnected, and you may have your individual pocket at this point in space time, but at the end of the day, that fabric is one and that energy is universal. And again, that sounds so hippie and like frou frou
No,
out
no,
there.
trust me. No,
And yet, there's such a
yeah.
groundedness to that when you begin
Yes.
to recognize that when you need to relate to the rest of humanity and the rest of the created order of the universe, it works so much more when you can view that interconnectedness.
You just go back to it. Just go back to that mental image. To me, like I
Yeah.
to me, not mine is not a tapestry, but how I see it is basically the same thing. But we all come from this bright light, and from there, you just
Radiate
you're
out.
yeah, you radiate out, and then all the people, everybody would no, everybody is a soul. We just have human body because everybody's a soul having human experience. So essentially, when we die, we go back to being the light being that we are. So if we do come from the same source, but we're here because we're giving our unique identity, unique set of attributes, and then when we die, we actually go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make fun of me, that isn't that the same as you making fun of you because we come from the same thing.
So there's a phrase, I think it's in South Africa. It's called Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Yeah.
No, this is an open software. No wonder they name it as an open software. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So again,
So
yeah.
many revelations today, Joel.
Somebody did the work and then they marketed
Yes.
it.
Yes. Oh my God.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, somebody did the work and
Yeah, it's part of the world we live in. Uh,
I want to clap, but I don't want the guests to be like, oh my God, it's too loud. Okay.
to as a phrase means I am because you are. It's the concept that
Namaste.
yeah,
My light in me recognizes the light in you.
and I think it's so easy for us to sort of in our modern world where we're very scientific and logical and we want to sort of have all the reasoning behind things. It's easy to discredit a lot of those traditional sort of faith-based wisdom that's out there. Yet that wisdom's there for a reason. And
And it's
it's been
ancient.
it's ancient. It goes back
Mm,
to the source.
yes.
And if you want to discredit, faith and religion for its organization or for its hierarchy or for the politics around it, fine. But I think there's something that needs to be acknowledged and held on to in terms of the wisdom that's there, that those traditions and those stories still hold for us as human beings. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be, capital T truth, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not here to be the judge of that at the end of the
Yeah.
day. What I'm here to walk away with is to say, how do these stories really truly inspire me to live in this world in such a way that I'm finding meaning and feeling that interconnectedness and contributing to the greater good of the universe. You know?
And to echo, to me, I think science and spirituality is actually just one and the same. People trying to quantum physics,
And don't get me
aura.
started on this.
Come
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I know. Matter of fact, aura, quantum physics, quantum field, electromagnetic field. Come on, we say aura, vibe. Everything is energy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I absolutely love physics. I'm a terrible physicist. I'm a terrible physicist.
Me too. But
But I love it because the further you go, the more philosophical it becomes on a level.
See,
And you begin to recognize just how incredibly spiritual, and it's almost painful to use that word in that context, but it is.
Yes.
There is so much like truth and wisdom in pursuing scientific knowledge to that degree where you can walk away from it and be like, wow, like I'm actually truly moved as a human being because I'm
Yes.
understanding more.
You just marvel at this body that you have. You appreciate it, what it does for you. We take it for granted that it pumps, your heart pumps, I don't know how many times in a day, but it does
Right?
it so effortlessly.
Yeah.
For us to be talking like this, like we don't need to. Oh, let me just give me some minute, drill. Let me just check my my heart rate, or is it pumping? I need to get it. Like, turn on the switch. So it's like it's amazing. It's amazing. So, and that just comes back to being grateful, why you are here, and why. And that's what I said. When I don't want to discredit people who actually going through some mental health issues, right? And oftentimes it's because maybe they couldn't see a way out, and normally it's not them wanting to end the life. It's the feeling that they um attach to it, and you just want to stop that pain. Because I read this somewhere. It's like, okay, we're going down, we're going to another rabbit hole here. Um, okay, I can't speak for all, but there is a story that I read. Like, every time a person's probably is a jump, the moment they jump is the moment they regret it. It's because it's actually they don't want to die, but they just want to kill something that's inside of them.
I see the context that you're okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then coming back to self-worth, being grateful for the little things that you have, like really the little thing, like I can breathe today, I got to wake up today, I have friends and family, I don't need to beg
Yeah.
for food. Like, you can, there's so many
Grat-
things to be grateful for.
Gratitude
Yeah, gratitude. Yeah,
is so important. It really is.
underrated.
Yeah.
People say, oh, write your knee, but truly, if you
I
really see it.
Yeah, I just recently. So I had this really dramatic departure from Iraq. I mean, it's
Right.
very, very traumatic actually. And I came back here to the States, and about 2 months in, I'm still sort of struggling with the meaning of why this happened and how am I gonna rebuild my life after this. And I found in one of the stores here, I actually found there's a toy for kids, like a learning toy. And I was like, I need this as an adult. And so I bought it right away. I was like, I never do that. I'm not a consumerist. I never buy anything. And so I was like, this thing I'm getting. And it's a sort of wooden cutout of a tree that has these little sort of slots in it that you can put there's all these paper leaves that you can write things that you're grateful for and then attach the leaves to the tree. And so I did this every day for 2 months and watched this tree of gratitude bloom.
Oh my
Um,
god, I need that tree. Where
and
did you get that
it's
tree?
it's so good. In fact, hold on, I'm going to show it to you. It's right here.
Okay,
Hold on.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Here it is. This is my tree of gratitude.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the concept. First off, just
Can,
like,
can you like, yeah, can you like, wow. Because I'm opening up my own therapy practice and coaching. So
oh,
I want to
nice.
do, yeah, I want to do something. I want to do something unique. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be like va va voo. To me, simplicity is key. But
Yeah.
that just gave me an idea. I could maybe find it in Etsy or something. Huh.
3D print your own or whatever. I mean, there's I don't know what,
Yeah,
but
okay. But I don't know how I can get, but it's somewhere here in Malaysia. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just a simple concept. And again, it doesn't, your gratitude practice, your meditation practice doesn't have to look anything like this. But
Yeah.
things that I have found, this is such a great metaphor for a season. I'm not going to use a gratitude tree for the rest of my life, but for a season to watch things bloom as I process some hardship has been so incredibly fundamental in keeping me steady in the face of difficulty. To just have a moment to be, what, I'm thankful I had food today. I'm thankful I got good sleep. I'm thankful I was able to buy new shoes. I'm thankful for, my
My
friends that came
air
to call.
conditioner is working.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and some days, it's the big thing. Like I'm thankful,
Yeah.
I won the lottery or whatever, and
Yes.
sometimes it's the
Yes.
little thing. I'm thankful I'm above ground and breathing. Great.
Mm-hmm. 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 Preach.
But that
Wow.
practice repeated over time, I mean, what are we? As human beings, we're patterns over time. That's what we are. We're,
Yeah.
we are navigating the space-time fabric of the universe
Yes.
as a as
Oh my God.
as a
Quantum
repeated
physics.
pattern, right?
I
Like
love it.
you are in your identity basically in an evolving, shifting pattern across time, pattern
Mm-hmm.
of behavior. And yeah, I mean, that sounds really kind of like reductionist on a level to say that, but if you can practice these
No.
sorts of things on a routine level, then it becomes so much of part of your being.
And it amplifies like
Yeah,
mm,
exudes good energy. I don't know,
yes.
good juju out there. I
Juju.
just
Whenever I see the West saying juju, I'm like, is this supposed to be a cute little term? But juju is actually like the
like
vibe.
mojo, like the
Raga
vibe. Yeah,
mojo, yeah, like a
yeah, yeah. I don't know where
oh
the
my
term
god.
comes from. It's probably a really pejorative origin, but it's I threw it out there. It is.
Oh my god, having a great time. And look at us. We were just yapping and yapping. It's 57 minutes. I am so sorry for taking so much of your time. I'm gonna
Hey,
ask you a
we've a
few
good
more
time.
questions.
Go for it.
Okay, so writing a memoir involves revisiting personal experiences. So how did you
Mhm.
approach your writing process? And were there any challenges along the way?
The challenge.
Oh, the challenge. We're gonna go to the challenge straight. Okay.
I'm gonna go straight to the challenge. Yeah, the straight to
Okay.
the challenge really was, I lived this difficult experience. I mean, we all, those of us who lived through the pandemic lived through a difficult experience, right?
Yeah.
But then I had to go back and relive the experience through writing it. So not only was it traumatic of like, okay, here's this difficult thing we've all done,
Flashbacks.
then a year and a half later or so, sat down, closed my eyes, and watched the movie theater of my mind replay these scenes as I typed them out on my screen, right? And sort of relived a lot of that same emotional experience, that same trauma, to
Mhm.
only then send it off to an editorial team who then told me my experience wasn't good enough. You need to change this paragraph, add this,
Excuse
punctuation.
me? I lived that. Did you live that experience?
So I joke with people that it's the thrice lived trauma. I lived my trauma 3 times.
The real one, the
Yeah.
writing of the book, and the edited one.
Right? So that was really the big challenge, I
My
think.
slim trauma, Joel. You're you're funny.
I mean, they say the best way to heal from trauma is to press into it. So,
Eh,
press in, I did, I guess. I mean, oof, full on.
Whoa, okay. You went right in there, yes.
But yeah, I
Oh
mean, that
gosh.
was the real challenge of it. The joy of writing the memoir, however, was, being able to basically make sense of my own story, to process it again, of sitting with myself and processing that information in such a way that hopefully would be helpful to someone else. Whether it
Yeah.
actually imparts good wisdom or just is an inspiring tale or just provides entertainment. We all have needs on various levels, and whenever you pick up my book, should you decide to do so, hopefully it'll be in the hands of the student at the right time. You'll learn from it what you need to.
Exactly. And that although they don't so for example, like for me, if I were to read a book, there's no way I can memorize the word from cover to cover, but at least a takeaway from that
Yeah,
book, I'll
yeah.
take it with me until, well, to be honest, when I'm 6 feet underground, well, then it's the soul already, right? Beautiful. Yeah, again, choosing what you want,
Yeah.
having that boundary against all the tsunami of information.
Yeah.
Whoa! We brought it, it's the full circle now. So, Joel, what is next for you?
So I'm currently doing a lot of work right now in cross-cultural communication and doing some public speaking, doing some more writing. And basically, my goal really is to help people navigate their cultural world, How do you connect with people who are outside of your perceived socioeconomic, cultural, political backgrounds? How do you make those sorts of connections? How do you bridge the gap, basically? So I'm working on book number 2. Will be about my dramatic exit from Iraq. I'm tentatively calling it Between Iraq and a Hard Place.
Ooh.
I like it just as a
Yeah.
fun title, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm currently working on. So hopefully I'll have that out within a year-ish. It takes a while to put together a book, but that's kind of my goal. And I'll probably be looking for some more work overseas again. I'm trained in education, and so I'll probably go back into the educational world, either teaching or an administrative role. I've just found that that's been a really good space for me to be in, to create that order, while still providing me a lot of freedom to go and pursue personal projects. So,
Wow.
yeah, doing a lot of things.
Congratulations for you.
Thank
I
you.
think you're gonna do great things. You already are, and
Thank
it's
you.
just gonna continue. Like, yeah, we both will be.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Yes. I wanted to touch back on the part where you said bridging the gap, right? So can you tell us, the listeners today, if you could you could simplify, how do you actually bridge the gap in that cross-cultural, I don't know.
That is a question, I think people don't like to hear the answer.
Oof, that's me. I like to probe things in.
I think the real answer, the number one thing to help you bridge the gap with others, is what we've been talking about for the whole hour. Know thyself.
Be open. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Do the work inside. Know yourself, because until you know yourself, you won't be able to really have the true empathic understanding of others. That's the number one. Know thyself and be open, of course. You have to be willing to take the step across the bridge, to take that leap of faith. And I think it really does take a level of trust. It really does. Because it's easy to isolate. It's easy to distrust. It's easy to be, fearful of others. I was just speaking to someone the other day on one of these shows, and the phrase came out, something along the lines of, it's always to your benefit to trusting others will always pay off until the one time it doesn't.
I live on the notion of, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. That means I trust you until you've broken my trust, then it's okay. Because I like to approach it with good intention.
If you think about trusting others over the course of a lifetime, in aggregate, like all the times that you trust people, as a sum total, will always outweigh and benefit the times that you distrust. Like, it's always in your favor, really.
And you're generating good karma. Come on.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, karma, good juju, good whatever,
Yeah, good mojo, whatever. Because there's so many people walking around, I don't trust you. It's, you're guilty until proven innocent. That is so constricting. Not to mention, you are always going against the flow, because you're always on, you needing to be vigilant whether people are going to take advantage of you. Of course, yes, to a certain level, but that's what I guess it's people say, give them the benefit of the doubt. But I don't even want to see it that way. Like, let me see you as the light that I am, as the light that you are.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, do your due diligence. Don't just, be foolish.
Exactly.
Obviously make sure that there are checks and balances in place to make sure that everybody who's involved in whatever the transaction is safe. But at the end of the day, someone's got to take that first step onto the bridge and say, you know what, I'm going to trust that this is going to be okay.
Yeah.
So do it.
Do it, yeah. Rooting for you, Joel. You know what? If somehow I need a speaker, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Can have a Zoom. Yeah.
That's, that's part of what I do. That's part of what I do.
Exactly. This is your cup of tea and you're really good at it.
Thank you.
Okay. 4 more questions, Joel. What is your heart's greatest wish?
It's greatest wish. Ooh. We've been talking about know thyself, and that's a hard one. I'm not sure I know the answer to. I think it changes with time. But at
Okay.
this point in time, I think my heart's greatest wish is to continue to grow.
And in that, you grow the consciousness of the people around you.
It's me again tomorrow, and I might say it's to win the lottery. But right now,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, yeah. But right now, I mean, yeah, we're ever changing, right? Again, but we're
100%.
not separate from the light. So remember, we can always go back. Yeah. Woo. Okay. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I have a few. This too shall pass is one. That's kind of the one that sticks with me regularly. Yeah, that's the one with me right now. This too shall pass.
Ooh, emotional. That's so true. This too shall pass. What keeps you up at night? Do you sleep well, or anything keeps you up at night?
I generally sleep really, really well. I guess I've just found a certain level of peace in myself to be able to say that, or I work too hard every day. I don't know, but I generally sleep well. There's very little that worries me. I'm not a worrying kind of person. Though I will say, in recent years, just as things progress in society and culture in the world, I worry about things like climate change. I worry about what we're doing to the world. I worry about, will we as human society, be able to pull ourselves together and make things better for ourselves and for the world that we live in? Or will we continue to just be self-destructive in the end? I think those are the things that, if I am going to sit around and worry, that's what I would worry about. I also come back to my mantra, this too shall pass. And I've got to do the best that I can do to make this world the kind of place that God would want to inhabit. What can I do to make this world better?
Okay. Last question. If you could create a quote right now, Joel, for you to leave to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be?
I think something to what I've just said, to be the kind of person who lives in this world creating meaning and purpose in such a way that God would want to show up here. That the divine...
Like God himself.
Yeah, that the divine essence, the divine power, that whatever, universal authority you want to sort of throw out there, that this would be the kind of world that right good things would want to show up to. And are you doing the action to that? That's the Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world kind of thing. Yeah. Act as if God's going to show up.
Yes.
Act as if your actions will bring God.
What would God do in this situation?
Yeah. And replace God, and here's what I say, I talk a lot I'm using faith language because I grew up in a religious context, but, what I love is I actually, when I hear the word God, I actually like to use it as an acronym and think good, orderly direction. That's what God is. It's good, orderly direction. It's living in a way that creates purpose. Intentional. Yeah. And whether you want that to be an actual being or whether you want that to just be a philosophy and idea, again, I'm not here to determine whether that's the case. I'm here to say good, orderly direction is the way to go.
What a way to wrap our conversation today, Joel.
Thank you.
I am elated. Because it's 10:43 a.m. So I've got the whole day ahead of me.
You're buzzing. I can see it.
I'm gonna utilize this to again put more good out there in the world.
Yeah,
and
I think you already are. I mean, you got a good podcast with this message. You are worthy. This sort of, I love what, right there in the background of your screen. You are worthy. You are enough. And there's so much to be said about owning that part of your person and who you are to help make this world a better place. We've all got to do it.
I need to get some quiet time after this and just say my little gratitude prayers after this. Joel, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I'm doing this. Yeah. I am buzzing and I'm everything. It's all sorts of emotion. You just attract light. You attract what you are, and there's a reason why we're speaking today.
So quickly too.
Yeah, so quickly too.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it, Nicolette. This has
Me
been
too.
delightful.
Likewise. It was such an honor to have you, Joel. You're doing great work. I'm connected to you via all I think most of your social media.
Mhm.
So when
Yep.
this once this airs, I will be sure to tag you.
Yeah. And if people want to find me on the internet, I'm at
Yeah.
joeldavidbond.com. And my book, As Large as Your Spirit, is on Amazon, available globally. And I'm on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, at Joel David Bond. So I'm everywhere. Find me. Come talk.
Yeah.
Step of faith.
Yes.
Connect
Connect. So thank you, Joel. You have a great evening.
as well. Yeah,
Thank
morning for
you.
you.
Yes. Thank you.
All
Bye
right.
bye. Take care now.